Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session on SAP Certified Professional Solution Architect, SAP BTP. In the previous session, we looked at the key pillars, data and analytics, and also integration. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to turn our attention to AI. So this is the hot topic in the industry, and one of the key pillars in the SAP BTP platform is AI as well. So when it comes to SAP, the three key areas of AI capabilities. There is the Joule, and there is also embedded AI capabilities in all of the SAP standard delivered apps. And there is also the AI foundation on SAP. So these are the three areas in which SAP concentrates. So I'm pretty sure everybody has worked with large language models. So when you're building your own custom model, for example, if you're going to build your own application, you have different options in which you can create your applications. One is the prompt engineering, and I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with the prompt engineering. And as you go from left to right, the complexity increases quite a bit. So SAP is not in the market of training LLMs from scratch, but we cover all these three areas. Now, when you start building applications with prompt engineering. So this is probably the easiest of all these from this in the spectrum. But again, there is a lot more complexity in here. So for example, there was a small project that me and a couple of my colleagues did last year. So I'm pretty sure you've all taken SAP certifications. So what we built and creating an SAP certification takes time, money, and resources. So upwards of 50 man hours. So me and a couple of my colleagues, we created this project in less than a week, and also working outside of office hours, right? So more as a proof of concept. And just to illustrate how easy it was to create this kind of an application. So here, this is a standard list report object page, and we have all the list of SAP certifications. And if we go in here and I select one of the certifications, what we can do is we can simply click on Excel download, and with the help of the large language models, we are able to go ahead and create all the questions for this certification. So we're able to create, so it's as easy as that. Just with a click of a button, we are able to create all these questions, and then we can send this off to the third-party vendor that handles the SAP certification. So you can see that from 50 man days, we have now reduced it to like maybe just a couple of days, right? So how were we able to create this kind of an application? So if you're interested in this application, let me know in the comments below, and I can do a session on how to create this application. So basically, this is an idea of prompt engineering. So if we break it into smaller steps, so the SAP certification is based on the learning journeys. So we can upload the PDF files for each of the learning journeys here. And once we upload the PDF files for each of the learning journeys, we can extract the content of the learning journeys. And even before we generate the questions, we can also have some hints. So here I want questions based on scenarios. So you can provide some hints, and then you can generate questions for that particular unit. So at a high level, of course, the devil is in the details. At a high level, is something like this. So you go to the LLM model, and you can ask for a prompt. So this is a prompt right here. So you can ask, say, can you provide 5 multiple choice questions on American history? Now, the LLM model is able to go ahead and create like 5 different questions, multiple choice questions, because of the prompt. Now, the problem here is your second grade class might follow a different textbook, and this may be out of syllabus. So in this case, what you want to do is you want to take the contents of your textbook, and along with this query, you want to provide the contents of your textbook as well, and then ask the LLM model to go ahead and provide you with 5 multiple choice questions based on the text that you have provided. Now, the questions that the LLM model is going to provide you is going to be based on the textbook that you're following for your second grade class. So now that you have these questions from the LLM model, what you also want to do is you want to double check that this question is actually valid. So what we do in our project is we take each question, and then we ask the LLM model can you answer the following multiple choice question? And then we provide just this question right here. Now the LLM model is going to answer this question. So then we cross verify to make sure that this answer that the LLM model has given is the same answer that it gave when it created the questions. So we run this pipeline a few times just to make sure everything is valid. Then we have a certain level of confidence that this question is valid, and then we can send it out to the third-party vendor. So this is an example of prompt engineering. And as you can see, this is fairly easy to implement. Of course, the devil is in the details, right? So you want the output structure in a JSON format, not as a string. You have to build the UI. You have to do a lot of other stuff. But the concept itself is quite simple with prompt engineering. So you're basically providing a prompt to the LLM model, and the LLM model is able to answer your prompt. Now, what we also have in our application is we also have, like you can ask a specific question like this, what is SAP Graph? And then you can submit this, and it's going to look into your learning journey and then answer this question, what is SAP Graph? Now, this part of it is going to use what is called RAG, the Retrieval Augmented Generative Mechanism. Now, how does this work? So this is like the next line in that spectrum, right? So this is a little bit more complex than prompt engineering. So with RAG, let's say you have your company's health benefits document, and let's assume that it is about 1,000 pages long. Now, you are interested in finding out what is your annual deductible. Now, one way of doing that is you can take this 1,000 pages long document, send it to the LLM model along with this question saying what is the annual deductible, because this is proprietary data. LLM model without this custom data, without sending this custom data, is not going to be able to answer the question what is your annual deductible. So you provide this 1,000 pages long document along with this query to the LLM model, but this is inefficient in so many ways. One, it is too much overhead. It is expensive because the number of words that you send is huge. And it also leads to hallucination by the LLM model because you're sending a lot of data and asking a simple question. So this is not a good solution at all. Now, if by some reason you know that the answer to your question is in chunk 99 and 234. Let's break this into like multiple chunks. So each page I've broken it into a chunk, but you can break it in any different way. And by some fashion, you know that the answer is in chunk 99 and 234. Then what you can do is you can just provide those two pages along with your query, and then the LLM model can answer your question. And this is a much better solution than before because you're sending less amount of data, so less hallucination, less token usage as well. Now, the problem is, how do I know which chunks have the relevant information? So for that, what we can do is you break this benefits document, your 1,000-page document, into like different chunks, so 1,000 chunks in this case, and you store them all as chunks in the vector database. And last year, SAP introduced support for the vector database in the SAP HANA Cloud. So now SAP HANA Cloud has support for vector database. So what it's going to do is take those chunks of data, and it's going to enrich it with some semantic information and store it as a list of arrays of numbers. And with this, what the SAP can do is it can, so the vector database now has all that information. Okay, so this is how it's going to look at in the vector database. So here in my vector database, you can see that the course material is now broken into chunks of data, and it is also vectorized. So here you can see the vector representation of this chunk of data. So it has semantic information in addition to the data itself. What I mean by that is, let's say if you ask the computer, is 99 close to 100 or is 5 close to 100, the computer should easily say that 99 is close to 100. But if you ask, hey, is the queen queen closer to a king, or is the house close to a king? It doesn't have the real world knowledge to answer that the queen is closer to a king. Whereas if you ask a human being would say, yeah, queen is closer to a king. Now, basically, this vector representation is basically doing that. It's going to have some semantic meaning. Now, when you ask a question like, what is SAP graph? It can look at all these chunks and say that, hey, this chunk has relevant information to answer this question. This chunk has relevant information to answer this question, and so on. So with this knowledge, what we can do is we can take like the top 2 or top 5 relevant chunks and send this to the OpenAI LLM or whatever LLM model that you're using, and then you send your question as well along with it, and now you can accomplish this. So this is using the RAG model. So like I said, so we can use the RAG as well. Next thing I do want to talk about is Joule in SAP CAP. So if I go down this spectrum, so let me go down the spectrum. So I talked about prompt engineering. I also talked about the RAG. But now let's talk about fine-tuning LLMs. So now we're entering uncharted waters where this is a lot more complex than doing this prompt engineering and retrieval augmented generation. So today, or maybe yesterday, SAP released support for Joule as a copilot for ABAP development language. So there is this blog post right here. So if you're watching this YouTube video in the future, then this may be outdated news. But today is March 21, 2025. So SAP just announced support for this. I will post this link in the chat window. Now, the thing with ABAP language is it is proprietary to SAP, and there's not a whole lot of ABAP code out there that can be publicly used. So a model like the ChatGPT-4 or whatever model may not be well versed with the ABAP language at all. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to take this large language model as the base, and then we need to fine tune it. We need to teach it the ABAP language. And that's what SAP has done. So SAP has taken this large language model and it has taught it the ABAP language. And this is done through like a fine tuning mechanism. So we didn't build the large language model from scratch. That is outside the scope of SAP. But what we have done is we have taken a foundational model and then we have added this knowledge. Now the LLM model is well versed with the ABAP language. Now it is going to be supported in SAP BTP ABAP environment in the Cloud Public Edition and so on. Now, if you need more information on this, there is also this webinar, and I will also post a link to this in the chat window. Again, if you're going to be looking at this in the future, then this may not be relevant. But the speaker, Alexander Rother, he's the head of the ABAP development. He's a very energetic speaker. So if you do get a chance to attend this session, by all means do this. So it's free to register. Just go ahead and register. There is a session for the Europe and there's a session for the America session as well. You can see that I have registered for the America session, but go ahead and register for whatever session is convenient for you. Now, I can't show you this ABAP Copilot because I don't have it, and this was just released like yesterday. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Joule, the generative AI Copilot in CAP. Now, with CAP, it's a little bit different because CAP uses Node.js, and Node.js is the foundational models that they all know about the CAP. Of course, there are some SAP-specific stuff, but it's fairly easy to get around it with some kind of advanced prompt engineering. And let me give you a quick demo of what Joule can do in terms of easing app development in CAP. Now this, of course, is in CAP, but you can do similar stuff in ABAP now. It's just that with ABAP, we had to do the fine tuning because it's a lot more complex with ABAP. Okay, so the demo that I'm going to show is for CAP. So in the CAP world, what I can do is I can go ahead and uh, add a prompt something like this. So generate an SAP Fiori Elements application based on the attachment. And the attachment that I'm going to provide is some kind of a whiteboard sketch like this. So here is my attachment right here. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this. And it's going to think, it's going to ask me for the attachment itself. So what I'm going to do is provide the attachment. So here I have provided the attachment right here. So let me go ahead and delete it first. And let me select the attachment one more time. So here I have my projects. And then in my supporting documents, I have the travel.png file. And I'm going to click on this generate button right here. So the CAP with advanced prompt engineering is going to be able to generate an application based on this attachment right here. So it's going to look at this attachment right here. It's going to figure out, hey, I need an entity for travel. I need an entity for bookings. And it also knows that, hey, there is some kind of a relationship between these entities. And also that I need to create a Fiori element, a UI application. So it's going to build a end-to-end application just based on this attachment. Now, granted, this is a good POC or kind of a wow factor, and not something that you would actually be doing in production. In production, what you really want to do is your prompt needs to be very specific. So you may want to say, hey, I want to do this and kind of spell it out rather than give like a generic thing like this. But the reason I'm showing this is, hey, this is something that you can do with the CAP, with the Joule in CAP to ease your application development. You can see that it has already created this application, so you can even preview this application before you accept it. So you can see that this application is actually working and so on. And then once you're comfortable with the application, then you can go ahead and accept the project. So you can see that it has even put some sample data here as well. It has full CRUD functionality, and then you can even go into the detail page as well. So pretty neat, granted that with like just a click of button, you're able to generate the application and then you can accept it as well. But again, this is good for a demo, and this also has the wow factor. But typically what you would do in your application is you would, like if you're for production, right, you would actually provide something very specific like this. Hey, define 4 entities and so on. So this is how you would actually do the application development with Joule, rather than like a very generic statement like this. Anyways, if I go back, okay, so we talked about Joule and so on that is embedded within SAP applications. Now let's focus our attention on the embedded AI capabilities. So with embedded AI capabilities, what is SAP doing is they are providing a lot of AI-related stuff within your SAP, within the SAP standard delivered apps. So pretty much all of the SAP standard delivered apps, if possible, have some kind of AI built into it. You may not even be aware that there is some AI models working behind the scenes. But let's take, for example, this is an application managed payment advice. So, I mean, of course, there are other applications as well. So in this, the customer sends like the invoice details as an attachment, and the employee would have to look into the attachment, get all the details and re-enter it. But instead of doing that, what you can do is you can simply import these files. So in my case, let me hit go. There is nothing in here at this moment. I can go ahead and import some files, and let's put in a company code. And I'm going to go ahead and upload some files in here. And let me upload some files. So these are attachments that the customer has sent. So I'm going to go ahead and upload these files. I can go ahead and process these things. And what is behind the scenes, the AI models are going to look into this attachments, and they know the header information, they know the line items, they're able to extract the information. So you can see that it is processing all these payment advices, all these attachments, and then it's going to give it to you for confirmation. So now it has drastically like reduced the amount of time that is needed. So all these kind of AI stuff is kind of inbuilt. So here it has already extracted all the information. Now all your job is to just look into this detail, so you can look at all the line items, make sure that they're all looking correct, and then you can simply confirm and go to the next one. So there were 5 of the attachments. You just confirm all of them once you just manually verify. Okay, so that is the embedded part of it. So you see how we have we have uh, uh, we have reduced the amount of work that the end user would need to do when working with SAP delivered apps. So now let's look at the AI foundation on SAP BTP. So not only does SAP provide you with the AI models and so on, SAP also gives you the power to go ahead and create your own AI models if you need to. Before that, I do want to talk about agents. So this year, SAP is going to focus a lot on agentic AI. Now, how does agentic AI work? So with agentic AI, let's say you have a task like this. Say you have $1 million to invest, and you're looking at some of these companies, and you want to find the ratio in which you should invest in the following companies to maximize your profit. Now, if you ask the LLM model this question right now, what it's going to do is it's going to give you kind of a generic answer. But whereas if you give the same question to a financial analyst, what he is going to do is he's going to go ahead and research the strengths of each of the company. He's also going to look at the business trends. He's going to look at how the stocks are doing, performing. Like he's going to look at the history of the charts and so on. And then he's also going to make an educated guess based on his knowledge. And he's going to give you kind of a ratio in which you should invest in the following companies. Now, that is because he has at his disposal, the financial analyst at his disposal, various tools with which he can do some investigation. Now, so the thinking is very simple. So if we create tools like this, and provide it to the LLM model and let LLM model autonomously decide which tools to use to go ahead and solve a particular task, then we can achieve the same goal that the financial analyst can do for you. So that is the entire premise of the agentic AI. What you do is you have a specific task, and then to this LLM model, you give like 10 different tools. So you give like 10 different tools to this LLM model. And what this LLM model is going to do is it's going to look at these tools and say, hey, it's going to break it in this task into multiple smaller tasks. And then for each of the tasks, it's going to go ahead and use one of the tools at its disposal. And at the very end, when it is satisfied with the results, it's going to give it to you. So this is this has been around for a couple of years, but lately this has taken a little bit more precedence, and SAP is also investing a lot of effort this year. So in 2025, you will see SAP working a lot with this agentic AI. So for example, I have a simple app right here. So let me show you what I have. So I have a question like, who won the Australian Open in 2025 men's singles? If possible, can you also get the score for the finals? And when I run this in Jupyter Notebook, and I also gave like one tool. And typically, this is not the right use case. Typically, what you would do is you would give multiple tools to the LLM model. In this case, I've only given it one tool, and this is the search tool, so it's always going to use this tool. But if you gave it like multiple tools, then the LLM model will decide which tool is the best for this particular task. So in this case, it has taken this search tool, and you can see that, hey, I need to find the winner of the Australian Open. So it says, hey, I have this tool at my disposal, this search tool, so I'm going to use this tool. And it has found that the winner is Yannick Sinner. And then, hey, I need to find the score of the finals. And what tools do I have at my disposal? It has the search tool again, so it's going to search for the score. Once it finds the score, it tells you that this is the score for the finals. Now, what we did not do is we did not tell the LLM model to go ahead and use this tool. The LLM model was smart enough to figure it out on its own, that it can use this tool to find out the values. So that is the agentic AI. It holds a lot of potential, and SAP is working towards that this year quite a bit. Also, AI Foundation. So the last area in SAP BTP is the AI Foundation. So we offer a range of pre-trained AI models, and we also provide you with the infrastructure for you to build your own models as well. So with the AI core, I think I've done a session before where you can build your own AI model as well. But we also host like a common a lot of pre-trained models as well. So in order for you to train your own model, there are train and host your own model. There are a couple of phases what you would do. With the training phase, this is where what you do is you provide a lot of input to the model so that the model learns from your data. So let's say you want the model to identify a tennis ball, then you would provide a lot of data, a lot of images of tennis balls, various shapes and forms, and then the model would figure out that, and then you provide any image of a tennis ball, then it'll figure out that it's a tennis ball. So you have like some kind of a machine learning code that you would write in Python or whatever language you want, and then you would put it into this container right here, and the infrastructure is all provided by SAP. And then this Docker container goes into this Kubernetes pod, and it is hosted in this Kubernetes cluster where it runs. And then, of course, you need some training data. So like I said, if you have like a whole bunch of tennis balls images, that can be stored in an AWS S3 bucket, and you can provide that as the training data. And then you can also provide some input parameters for fine tuning as well. So all this infrastructure is provided in the AI foundation. So in this AI foundation in SAP BTP, all this infrastructure is provided. And then once you train your model, you get the machine learning model itself. So that's the output of this training phase. Once you get this model, once this output of this model is created, then what you want to do is you want to save it in some place, preferably an AWS S3 bucket. So all this infrastructure is provided in the AI foundation. And once you have trained the model, the next step is the serving phase, right? So here again, what you want to do is you want to take this model and maybe have some APIs. You want to expose it as some APIs so that a application can consume it. So again, you can write code in Flask, Python if you want. So Flask is a popular framework that you can use in Python. So you take this machine learning model that you have generated, which is stored in this AWS S3 bucket. You can bring it into this Docker container, and then you can expose them as APIs. And then you can have applications that consume this machine learning model. So these are the three areas in AI capabilities within SAP. So with this session, we kind of took a deep dive into the AI capabilities in SAP. And in the next session, we will look at both app dev and automation. Thank you.